This is the new 2026 Porsche Cayenne Electric, and it's, well, the fully electric Porsche Cayenne. But it's a lot more than that. This isn't just Porsche putting electric motors in the Cayenne. It is a completely new vehicle with some amazing new technology and some truly impressive numbers. And today I'm going to give you a thorough tour of the new Cayenne Electric and show you all of its quirks and features. Before we get started, are you ready for your next cool car? Sell your enthusiast car on Cars and Bids. Trading in your car to dealers means you aren't getting market value for your car, leaving you with less cash for your next fun car. Just look at our recent sales of these cool cars compared to current trade-in value. This is a trade-in offer, and this was the Cars and Bids result. This is a trade-in offer, and this was the Cars and Bids result. This is the trade-in offer, and this is the Cars and Bids result. Get started now on carsandbids.com. Sell on Cars and Bids and join the best community to sell your enthusiast car. All right, time for the quirks and features of the new Cayenne Electric, and I gotta start with the best quirk first. This car has inductive charging, meaning it will charge from a charging pad mounted on the floor. You don't even have to plug it in. This car has a few neat charging quirks, but that is definitely the neatest. The charging pad is here. You can see it's fairly large size, goes underneath the car. You have to plug the charging pad in, but once you have that in, then you can drive right over it with the car and it will charge. And you can see you're coming over it with the car. There's a little LED on the front part of the charging pad that turns green once the car is positioned correctly and charging using the charging pad. And yes, the car is right now charging and I haven't plugged it in. It's amazing. And you can see when you're inside the car, the camera system almost makes it a game. You have to line up the one dot with the other dot, and when you do that, charging is active, and you can see pretty quickly after you line them up and you stop the car, the charging begins, and it shows you how fast the car is charging and how long until the car is fully charged. Now, of course, inductive charging in a car leaves me with a lot of questions, starting with, can it get wet? And the answer is yes. It can get wet, it can get cold. Porsche told me you can leave it outside if you want to. It will still charge the car. You can step on it, you can drive on it. It will all still work. Obviously not while the car is charging, but when it's just sitting there. How fast does it charge the car? Obviously the answer to that is a lot slower than if you plug it in, especially to a fast charger. But Porsche told me a figure from a fully depleted battery, you can probably charge the whole thing in maybe 8 to 9 hours. That's not incredibly fast, but it's enough for you to show up, you park it on the inductive charger at night, you go to sleep, and it's fully charged in the morning. And you never had to deal with plugging it in. What about heat? Inductive chargers for your cell phone, they tend to get really hot, but Porsche told me this only goes up to about 120 degrees Fahrenheit, which obviously isn't that excessive and it doesn't pose a huge danger. And speaking of a huge danger, what if an animal or a child crawls onto the charging pad while it's charging? Porsche told me if that happens, it stops charging immediately, but it will resume charging immediately once the obstruction goes away. Now, if the obstruction does not go away, your cat comes onto the charging pad and falls asleep, then charging will completely stop and you'll get a notification saying, hey, there's some obstruction, we've stopped charging, so you can go into your garage, check on the cat, get it out of there so your car can start charging again. That is a pretty cool quirk of the new Cayenne Electric. And of course, there are many more cool quirks, but right now I want to give a brief overview. Starting with, this is a completely new, fully redesigned vehicle compared to the existing gas Cayenne. Unlike some other EVs, they didn't just put electric architecture in the existing car, it's totally new and totally changed. In fact, Porsche told me the only carryover parts from the gas Cayenne were the door mirror skin and the steering wheel. That was it. Everything else is completely new, and visually the car does look completely redesigned. It still retains kind of the basic general overall Cayenne profile, but it's a totally new look compared to the old car. And more importantly, it does not replace the gas-powered Cayenne. For now, the electric Cayenne and the gas Cayenne will continue along simultaneously side by side, So two completely different Cayenne models in Porsche showrooms with two completely different designs, one gas, one electric. And Porsche said they expect the Gas Cayenne to stick around for at least another decade, probably will eventually take the shape of this car, but for now, they are totally different vehicles. Just like the Macan, the electric and the gas continue along together. So that's a little overview, and now let's talk some specifics. As the Cayenne Electric launches, it will be offered with two variants. There's the base model, the Cayenne Electric, which starts around $109,000, and then there's this, the Cayenne Electric Turbo, which starts around $163,000. And the Turbo is insane. In regular everyday driving, the Turbo has about 845 horsepower, which is already a pretty insane number. But there's a little button on the steering wheel you can use called Push to Pass, which gives you a 10-second boost of extra power, about 175 horsepower extra for just a few seconds. However, that is still not the maximum power output for this car. If you go into launch mode in the Cayenne Electric Turbo, you get approximately 1,140 horsepower, around 1,100 pound-feet of torque. You do 0 to 60 in 2.4 seconds on your way to a quarter mile in under 10 seconds. Unbelievable numbers. This is by far the most powerful road car that Porsche has ever made, and truly puts up some incredible numbers, especially for a luxury SUV. If that makes you want one, you're in luck. The Cayenne Electric is available to order starting now, today officially, although deliveries won't actually start until late summer of next year. And for now, this is a static early production car. I can't yet drive it, but I am looking forward, obviously, to getting behind the wheel as we get closer to this car going on sale, probably sometime next year. As for range figures, they haven't yet been officially released. Porsche told me in their test and development driving, they've been able to get more than 350 miles of driving range, which is impressive. However, EPA official range numbers for comparison purposes haven't yet come out, so we wait for those for the final results. But anyway, back to the quirks and features. Starting on the outside, let's talk design. Like I said, completely redesigned from the standard gas-powered Cayenne, and it looks pretty different actually in person. It has kind of a general Cayenne profile that we've come to expect the car's had since its first redesign back in 2011, but it is updated, different, sculpted, modernized, you could say, and it's certainly more slippery and curvy. In fact, Porsche told me the drag coefficient, the aerodynamics for this car, is significantly better than the gas car, which makes sense because that's a big deal for an electric vehicle. Sizing is fairly similar to the current Cayenne. It's about 2 inches longer, coming in around 196 inches in length. It's getting bigger, but it's not huge just yet. Probably the more important sizing info is that the wheelbase has grown pretty significantly by about 5 inches compared to the outgoing model, and virtually all that space has been put into the back seats, which is probably a nod to the Chinese market. They are huge consumers of electric vehicles, and they have especially high demand for larger rear seats. You get driven around more frequently there than in the States. Now, one interesting component of the Cayenne exterior is that a lot of stuff on the outside of this car is moving. We begin with the rear wing, which is standard on all Cayenne models, and in its normal operation, it looks like this. Just sort of a flush panel, but you can see there's a piece that's carved out that can move, and move it does. As you get to a certain speed, the wing kind of tilts upwards in order to provide more high-speed stability. This isn't that surprising. We've seen active Aero like this before on other sports cars and other Porsche models, and that's how it works. Now, one interesting thing about the wing is it also can function as a brake. So if you're slamming on the brake from high speed, the wing can turn completely vertical to provide extra drag to help slow you down faster, which isn't something we see quite so often. It's kind of interesting. Now, up front, Porsche told me that one thing their customers love about the current gas-powered Cayenne is the large front grille. Makes the car look aggressive and bold. However, for an electric car, you need this space to be a little bit more aerodynamic and curvy. You can't have a big opening up here or you'll lose some range. So Porsche has made the grille area curvy, but below that, there is a large opening area that has some active Aero blades that move depending on the driving conditions. And you can see the area that houses the Aero blades is quite large and open, like the grille in a gas car, and it gives it kind of that muscular look up front. Now, these Aero blades are kind of strange. When the car's just parked, they're sort of angled like this, but they can change their shape and their angle depending on the exact driving that you're doing in order to bring more air into the car to help cool the battery when it's necessary. So for high performance fast driving, they actually open completely to allow for maximum airflow to come in here for maximum cooling, which is kind of cool, and another moving item on the outside of the car. However, by far the most unusual moving item outside the new Cayenne is in the back, where you have this little panel that actually comes out from the bodywork once the car goes over about 40 miles an hour. You can see the panel actually sort of removes itself and sticks out almost like a tail fin. Now, when you look at the panel, you look closely, you can see there's some words on it. At the top, it says Porsche Active Aero, and at the bottom, a set of coordinates. Porsche told me that these coordinates go to the wind tunnel where this active rear panel was developed. So why is it there is the question, of course. Interestingly, they told me that designers obviously want the car to be flowy and smooth and beautiful. However, the engineers want kind of a boxy shape in back. Apparently, it helps with airflow and aerodynamics and improves range. So Porsche's solution was this tail fin that pops out the back. It lets the car be beautiful when it's stopped and in normal driving, but at higher speeds provides that boxy airflow around back. And apparently this individual rear panel pop out gives this car an extra 15 miles of range just from that, which is a pretty cool innovation and interesting to see. And of course, there's more. Some other interesting exterior quirks. Up front, you have these air inlets below the headlights. Porsche tells me the inlets are largest on the turbo models to help distinguish them from the other models and for actual functional reasons. Specifically, air flows through here and larger inlets allows more air to pass, which helps cool the brakes. Obviously more important for the turbo with more power, more performance, larger brakes. These air inlets are also kind of sculpted to allow some air to pass down the side of the car and improve aerodynamics when it does. Up front, you can also see the headlight design, sort of your typical characteristic Porsche headlights with the 4 line dots in it. Look kind of cool. One interesting and notable change Porsche has made to this car is the fenders, which now kind of pop up a little bit more at the edges. They sort of roll up at each side compared to the gas-powered Cayenne, where there's sort of a hood bulge in the middle as opposed to these pronounced fenders on the sides. The cool thing that comes out of this is that when you're sitting inside the car, you look out and see the popped up fenders, and it almost looks like you're driving a 911, where you have those sort of pronounced fenders ahead of the circular lights in front, and it kind of gives you that vibe. It's a neat design detail you wouldn't necessarily notice or understand until you get behind the wheel, and then it makes sense. And speaking of the wheel, let's talk about wheel options on the outside of the car, which are actually surprisingly interesting. Porsche tells me the Cayenne Electric will offer wheel sizes from 20 to 22 inches. The 20-inch wheel is the most aerodynamically efficient. This one has 22-inch wheels, and this specific wheel design actually has a cool quirk. It's designed to be a little wider, a little more aggressive, and the result is that if you choose these wheels, the wheel arch over the wheel is actually flared out a little bit more compared to other wheel designs, which means you get these wheels and you get a slight wide body look to the car, which is actually pretty pronounced from the rear angle. It looks pretty cool and definitely gives it sort of a more aggressive, more sporty look. I gotta say, I really like that idea. Also worth pointing out here on the side, you can see next to the front door, sort of at the bottom, there's a little panel here that says
turbo, because of course this is the turbo model. This panel apparently will only be on the turbo. The regular Cayenne Electric does not have it, and it sort of emphasizes the specialness of this car, even if you don't see the turbo badge in back. One other cool side detail of this car, you will notice there are charge ports on both sides. You have one on the driver's side in the back, and then you have another one on the passenger side and back, and this is to account for different charging standards, so you don't have to use an adapter, move the car around, all that stuff. You have both built into the car, which is a pretty neat thing. And opening the charge port doors is also pretty neat. You just tap in this little square area on the side, and the door opens not out like a gas cap, but you can see into the car sliding in, kind of a futuristic and cool charge door experience. And Porsche tells me the charge door closes by you simply driving away. It'll know then that you don't really need to charge anymore, and you're all set. It's supposed to be seamless and automatic. By the way, speaking of charging, one thing worth pointing out with this car, it is capable of charging at incredibly high speeds. If you find a charger fast enough, this can go from 10 to 80% charged in about 15 minutes, which is really, really quick. Not that much slower than a typical fuel stop for gas. Now, a lot of chargers can't handle this speed, but if you find one that can, the Cayenne Electric can handle it too. And since we're getting around to the back of the car, let's talk rear light bar. You can see it goes across the entire rear of the car, but in the center, instead of a boring light strip, it actually says Porsche spelled out in 3D lettering, gives it kind of a distinctive look back there. You also have this thin strip that goes all the way through the light bar. This isn't lighted, and Porsche told me that it can be customized in terms of color. It's sort of keyed to the model you get, but you can also change it if you want to personalize it, which is kind of a cool idea if you want to make your Porsche more special. And so many Porsche owners do. And next up, we move inside the Cayenne Electric, where undoubtedly the most notable thing in this interior is the curved center screen. Take a look at this curved screen. It's pretty cool. I guess some smartphones have it, but I've never really seen it in a car before, and the functionality of it is awesome. You have in the default setting the upper part of the screen and the lower part of the screen as kind of separate. The lower part is the controls, the upper part is display. However, if you want to enlarge the upper display, you just slide it down, and then you have the full curved screen for your display, and it creates this amazing effect. You can see with the map, there's sort of this 3D kind of coming towards you curved effect, which is great. You even have for lists, like this satellite radio station list, it scrolls all the way down and it curves towards you, and it just looks so cool, and it feels so cool, and it definitely adds a touch of modern to the interior of this very high-tech modern car. But the screen situation in here goes way beyond just that curved center screen. You also have a massive screen over on the passenger side of the dashboard. You can see really huge here, and the passenger has a lot of adjustments and controls on that screen in case they don't want to reach all the way over to the center curved screen to make adjustments. You have both options, and you also have a massive gauge cluster screen, which you can see is again curved, showing all of your gauges in the center in sort of the default mode, but it's also easily configurable to show a wide range of different things, including a very large full screen map. So if you want to see other information, the map right in your eye line, you can do that here, and it's all very configurable, easy to see, and it looks nice on this sort of curved screen with no real edge trim around it. It feels very nice, very modern and futuristic. Now, despite all of the room in this interior that's been given to screens, I have to say kudos to Porsche for still keeping physical controls for the most common climate controls. You can see right here, temperature, fan speed are still physical switches right in the center. Same with stereo volume, and some other climate controls here have kind of their own space, basically physical controls as well, right in the middle. And if you want to turn on your heated seat or your cooled seat, not a physical control, it's on the screen, but very easy to access. It's always in this position. Even if you have the curved screen on full screen mode, you have these controls at the bottom all the time to make it easy to access. Now, with that said, one climate control drawback is that adjusting the position of the climate vents does indeed require using the screen rather than simple switches on the vents themselves. You got to go into the climate tab and move around the climate vents from here. It's kind of a neat great party trick, but it does add some unnecessary complication to what was once a fairly simple task. Now, a few other cool things about this screen. One is mood modes. You can go into this mood mode section of the screen and choose between 6 different available modes, which then sort of take over the entire interior. Each one is linked to all of the screens in the car, the ambient lighting, and also the climate control. So when you choose each mood, you kind of go into this immersive mood experience depending on which one you select. Same deal with another selectable option here, the themes, where you can choose between 5 different interior themes. This isn't quite as immersive. Instead, it's more just coloring, but as you adjust each theme, it kind of changes background colors, lighting colors, etc. to correspond with the theme that you've selected. And this screen even gives you the ability to play video games. Apparently there's a video game app that comes with this screen, and you can get a Bluetooth controller and actually use the screen to play video games when you're standing still. Now, I've seen this feature in other cars before, and I really like having it. Obviously, you can't use it while you're driving, but if you're in park, you're waiting for someone at the airport or soccer practice or whatever, why not bust out a video game in your infotainment screen instead of sitting and reading a boring old book? Now, also worth pointing out, directly next to the screens, and specifically the center screen, there's a little pad here where you're intended to rest your hand. It's an actual hand rest. It's a little bit softer than other interior materials, and it's there for you to make adjustments to the climate control, the screen, etc. with your hand. You can see right below that pad you have Cayenne written here, which is actually illuminated. That's not printed on there. It's lit from the back, and it looks pretty cool. Now, you go further down in the center console, and you can see this center areas where you have 2 cup holders and also a lot of chargers. You have charge ports in here, household USB-C, and a wireless charger. But if you don't want to see all that stuff while you're driving along, you can cover it up. There's this rather attractive looking lid you can use to just shut it, and then you can pull forward the central armrest and actually create kind of a nice minimalist space in here. You would never even know that all of this functional stuff is just below. Another interesting interior quirk worth pointing out, the sunroof, which is absolutely huge. Giant panoramic sunroof like so many cars have, but the cool thing here is that you can change its transparency. You can make it fully transparent like you're seeing now, or you can make it fully opaque, which obviously means less sunlight gets through, and so you're not as bright inside the car. Or you can make it something in the middle. There are these kind of panels that can lighten or darken depending on exactly what you want, how much sunlight and where, and you can configure all that in the screens and then adjust the sunroof transparency in real time. It's a lot cooler than one of those old school sunshades that would whir slowly across the ceiling of the car. The new Cayenne Electric also has what Porsche is calling communication lights. It's sort of like an ambient light at the base of the windshield. You can see it here, and also on the door panels that will adjust depending on various different things you do with the car. For example, you go into sport mode, you can see the ambient light color, the communication light, actually changes color to sort of verify your decision to go into a different drive mode. And this happens for a lot of various different functions as you're using your electric Cayenne. In fact, Porsche told me when you take a phone call, the light turns on and sort of lights up like KITT, which was the car from Knight Rider, the 80s TV show, and it sort of pulses like the light inside of KITT would have done. This is kind of an interesting little Easter egg quirk I'll have to try out when I can actually sample a production version of this car. Now, and next we move on to the back seat of the Cayenne Electric, which really is good size. There is a lot of space back here. I'm a tall adult. I got good space for legs and hips and heads, and that makes sense because, like I said, this car has an extended wheelbase compared to the existing gas-powered car, and a lot of that space was put into the back seat specifically for more rear seat room, and that has paid off. You do have good space back here, very comfortable, unless you're sitting in the middle seat. You can see the 2 outboard rear seats are pretty heavily bolstered. They look luxurious and nice, but it means that the bolsters kind of dig into the space that you have as the center rear seat passenger. I suspect Porsche's research has told them this center rear seat doesn't really get used that often, but the back seats probably do, and so it makes sense instead of a flat, uncomfortable bench to kind of give a little bit more definition and luxury to those side rear seats, but it would have an effect if you're going to frequently carry middle seat passengers. Now, you have a few cool features in back. For one, there's a full array of climate controls right here that you can see. It's sort of a touchpad, and there are some switches, and you can adjust your fan speed, your temperature, all that stuff for the rear seats. It's not just the front in this car. You also have heated and ventilated rear seats, which is a pretty nice luxury touch. And of course, a couple of USB-C ports back here for rear passenger device charging. For cup holders, you got to drop the center armrest, and you can see two of them in here, pretty standard. One surprisingly luxurious item is that the rear seats are actually power operated. You can see the seat controls on the side, just like you typically see up front. Well, back here, you can move the seat around, seat back and seat bottom to optimize your comfort level, even in the back. And by the way, one other neat touch that shows Porsche is even thinking of rear passengers. When you open up the back door, you can see the Porsche script projected on the ground. Typically, that happens for most cars up front. You don't see it in back, but here they've done it front and back. Since the rear seat is a nice place to be, they might as well get that cool Porsche touch in the back door. Now, and finally, we move on to cargo space in the new Cayenne Electric. We open up the tailgate here, and you can see the cargo area, which is decent size, pretty much exactly what you'd expect for a vehicle like this. Actually a little bit bigger than what I was expecting. You have some decent cargo space in here, and you get a household style power port. You can see right here for charging your devices with a household power outlet. That's pretty impressive to see. Most of the German automakers haven't really caught on with that trend yet of the household power ports. It's really nice to see that in the car. I generally prefer it inside the interior in addition to the cargo area, but I'll take what I can get. Nice to have in the car for charging whatever you might want. Also in the cargo area, a few other things. You get little storage pockets off to the sides. You can see both driver and passenger side for smaller stuff. You don't want it rolling around. And you can drop the seats back here. You can see left seat and right seat automatically can be folded down from the back, which is nice to have. You can also drop the suspension back here, which is always nice. If you have something really heavy, you're struggling to get it in the car, you can lower it a little bit back here, make it a little easier with a lower height so you can lift it in a little more comfortably. Also worth pointing out, if you open up the cargo floor, you can see there's a storage compartment in here. Right now it contains a removable partition that you can use to kind of separate the interior from the cargo area. You can set that up and then get this back as cargo space, or if you have that folded, you can put it in here and then it has a place to stow when you're not using it. Now, on the subject of cargo area, it's worth mentioning this isn't the only cargo area. There is also a front trunk, and opening it is kind of interesting. You can press a button on the key fob or on the driver's door panel, or you just kind of swipe your hand over the front bodywork of the car and then magically it opens right up, which is a pretty cool feature. To me, the most interesting part here though is there's no extra latch. So once you press the button to open it, you don't have to go under there and reach around and try to figure out how to open it. It just pops right open and you can use it, which actually kind of makes it a little bit easier to open, to get in, and to actually access for putting stuff in the front trunk. And you can see the trunk itself is pretty large. A lot of EVs don't even bother with a front trunk, and if they have one, it's really small. That's not the case here. Then again, that's what we should expect from Porsche. They've been doing front trunks in their vehicles for years, so of course you would get a nice practical front trunk in the electric Cayenne. And so that's the new Porsche Cayenne Electric. Like I said, I can't drive it yet, but I look forward to getting behind the wheel as this gets closer to going on sale. For now, this is an impressive vehicle with some impressive stuff. And now you know all the quirks and features of the new Cayenne Electric.